Hello, thank you for joining me here today for our co-creation together. Today, we are going to be venturing into soul contracts. What a perfect time for this, because the lunar eclipse that's coming in Taurus on Saturday is really helping to support the restructuring of the relationships in our lives. And so it's kind of a perfect time to talk about all of this as we are going through this tremendous transformation. And soul contracts has come up quite a bit as I've had my own experience yet again with canceling a soul contract and watching it literally dissolve in front of me, which I will share with you. Um, you know, one of the things that's important to have an awareness of with soul contracts, let's talk about what they are first. They are agreements that we make. It's soul contract to have an exchange between yourself and another soul on the earth plane when we get into this physical incarnation. And the funny thing about soul contracts, or the thing I find funny about soul contracts, is that when we're in soul form and we're creating these soul contracts, we're not really aware of how it's going to play out in the 3D environment, because of course, when we're in our soul state of being in the higher dimensions, right? I don't want to say the other side, because it's really not an other side. It's just a dimensional place of being that we're in a higher dimension. When we're in that higher dimensional frequency, we're operating from the highest place within us. So we're not thinking about the ramifications on a negative side of what could possibly impact us, as far as soul contracts where we have to work out something difficult, right? Where we have to, maybe that person is going to soul contract with us because they're there and going to show up to teach us self-love, how to love ourselves above and beyond anyone else. That is one of the most common soul contracts that we make, right? People showing up in our lives to give us an experience that is less than stellar, less than desirable, one that is going to push us back into self-love as we learn to let go of the outer reality. And so soul contracts are very interesting, because when they're created and we come into this physical incarnation, how that soul contract is going to play out specifically is really unknown, because both parties have free will. And so it's not written in stone how it has to go. There's the intention behind it of what the soul contract represents and what it is holding, as far as its authority, right, to be used for this, or to gain this kind of knowledge or this kind of experience. But it is subject to the parties' free will of how they are both going to play that out, and how they are both going to interact in that experience between each other for the purpose of that soul contract. So nothing is really written in stone. And that's what I find most interesting about soul contracts, is that they are left up to the discretion of the human managing that physical experience. Because until we start to become conscious and evolve our consciousness, we're operating from a very human perspective and not a soul perspective at all. So you could see that how that might play a very, very big and important role in our managing our relationships that come in and out of our lives. Now, one of the other things that's interesting to me too is that aside from creating a soul contract prior to incarnation through your soul blueprint, right, for the things that we want to experience or learn about for our soul's growth while we're here in this physical incarnation, we can also create soul contracts on the spot. we were able to do that on the spot. So if we didn't learn the lesson or the experience that we needed to have, we would just create another soul contract spur of the moment with the next person that was, fitting that role. And that would be done in our sleep state, in the ethers, both party in agreement to coming into the role with each other to play that part out. That would help. That would happen in our sleep state. Most of the time, unbeknownst to the humans involved, because everything's happening up in the higher dimensional planes of existence. It's not like you'd say, hey, you come here, I need to continue to learn how to love myself. So come in as a relationship and do such a shitty job loving me that I have to figure out how to love myself, right? But that would be the nature of the soul contract if that's something that we were playing out. Where we would have to learn how to love ourselves to the point where we never let anybody, abuse us or disrespect us in any way, shape, or form. Okay. And so once we have integrated enough of our soul aspect, we filled our field with enough of our soul, then our human can step aside, because it doesn't need to have the experiences of the 3D reality anymore. In other words, it doesn't need to have the experience of blame, shame, guilt, betrayal, manipulation. And when we're done with all of those experiences and we're like, I don't want to experience any more of that. I'm done. I'm good. I'm sovereign. I'm going to operate from my highest place within myself, from a very conscious place, not allowing myself to go unconscious. Then we start to cancel soul contracts. And that's how that works. Now, as of 2012, when we went through that big shift in 2012, that started the ending or the culmination of soul contracts, okay, which ended also as one of the contracts, the light workers contract, which meant that we did not have to work the light for other people. We were now sovereign to that and able to be a light keeper, a light bearer, a light holder, whatever you want to call yourself. But that need to heal somebody was done. That soul contract ended in 2012. And it made us more sovereign in nature, where we would be able to be a facilitator to somebody else's healing, allowing them to take control and heal themselves. But if we were unaware, we would still think about the need to save someone or heal someone. Okay. This is what happened with soul contracts. Now we're at a point at this stage of the game, and we're in October 2023, where we are not needing to create new soul contracts at all. As a matter of fact, years ago, I think it was in 2017, that all changed with soul contracts, and we were then able to create new soul agreements, taking it up into the next highest version of soul contracts that would be beneficial to both parties involved, instead of the soul contract just being for one party's benefit. Okay, in order for that soul to benefit from whatever was transacting. So there's a lot at play with soul contracts, but soul contracts, if you are ready to end blame, shame, suffering, pain, guilt, manipulation, all of that, betrayal, which I have to tell you, all of that energy, especially shame, blame, and guilt, that's tied to cancer. Okay. So when we can't step out of that pain and suffering, it's going to create some kind of cancer somewhere in the body, which is why we have to really start taking control of our thoughts, words, and emotions, so that we're not creating these actions that are going to anchor any discordant energies in our field. It's why it's very important for us to understand that we can cancel soul contracts, and we don't have to keep engaging in something that is potentially harmful to us, right? If it's an unhealthy situation we're in, we have to understand that we can let it go without feeling sad or remorseful, without needing to have forgiveness for anybody, have forgiveness for ourselves or for the other person playing the role in the soul contract, in the relationship, because there is no forgiveness needed. It was a contract, a relationship that happened that had great purpose for what it was that we needed to experience, right? And this is with every single person in our lives, even our animals, okay? Now, let me share this story with you because it is a very palatable sharing that will really give you an idea of how a soul contract works. Now, when I lived in the other house, many of you know Bella, my cat Bella, came to me and wanted to be part of my family. She wanted to be with me. She came in, she sat, she wouldn't leave. She made herself, very known that she was here for me. And the universe had gifted me with a cat after my other two cats had departed. And so I was so happy to have her. And then at the point where I was going to get ready to take her and have her spayed, I recognized that she was hanging out with this other cat, a male, all the time. And they either looked like they were siblings or they were connected in some way together. And they were hanging out all the time. And I thought, like, this must be like a friend for her. Like they are together constantly, they'd lay in the sun together and they were always together. And she was young. She was only, I think, 6 months old. And so I got her spayed. And then at the point where we were moving, we were getting ready to move, October 2022, in July, or I think it was August, I had made the decision to take him with me because 2 houses down from us, where all these kittens were, which is how I got Bella, the individual's mom passed away, and all these cats were just having kittens. They just kept breeding with each other. And before we knew it, there was like 30 cats at that one house on the block, but they were all over the block. And so animal control kept being called. And then finally, I connected with them outside of my house when they showed up and was able to talk to them and tell them where the cats were coming from. And they said they wanted to come back and trap them all and take them into the shelter. So I thought, let me see if I could just rescue one more cat. I was used to having the 2 cats. I would be happy to take another cat, and Bella would have a companion. My friend Beth, who shares the house with me, she already had 3 cats. One cat decided didn't want to live in the house anymore, wanted to live outside. So it was 2 cats that would be living inside with Bella, and if I took this other cat, Chester. So I decided to take Chester. And, my heart was so aligned with getting a playmate for Bella, having a companion for her, because cats love community, and Beth's cats didn't really like Bella. And it was like they, the separation in age, Beth's cats are like, 9, 10, or 11, around there somewhere. And Bella was young. She was 6 months old at the time. So I thought I would take this cat that she was always hanging out with, and I named him Chester. It's what he told me his name was. So I named him Chester. And so he always reminded me of like a 13-year-old adolescent boy, like someone, freckles, really cute, but like very fussy, And so I decided to take him and adopt him. And the first time I tried to bring him in for neutering, he busted out of my big heavy duty plastic crate and was like, nope, I'm not going. And I thought, okay, I'll just buy a heavier duty crate, right? And I did. And then I finally got him in for neutering. And then we ended up moving here, and he was annoyed because he didn't have any of his friends. Beth's 2 cats didn't really, hang out with my 2 cats. They tolerated each other, no fights or anything like that, but it was not like there was this loving bond, and not like there was a loving bond either with the other group of cats. But anyway, this is important to what I'm about to tell you. So what ended up happening was he started to become a terrorist. He was Oh my gosh, such a scooch to me, not to Beth or, not to the cats or anything, like just to me. And because we live in a ranch and they know exactly where your bedroom window is, every day from the day we moved in, he would jump on my bedroom window, especially on the air conditioning unit, and paw at the window, paddle, paw at the window. And the first week we were here, he completely obliterated the screen of my one window, which I had to get repaired, which I didn't because I knew he would just take it out again. So I didn't get it fixed. And then he started doing it to the other window out front, but he would wake me up 10 times a night, 10 times without regard for anything. He want to come in, get something to eat, and then go right back out again. And I tried really, really hard putting in earplugs, putting cotton in my ears, doing all the kinds of things to shut him out, to stop this from happening. But it only made it worse. It only got worse. And he was really scooching me. And I used to say to him, if I didn't know any better, I'd say you were, he sent here to just like completely disrupt my life so that I can't ascend, like something is not right here. And it wasn't quite hitting me. I don't know where I was that I wasn't thinking of it. Probably that I just spent the last year in fight or flight because I was so sleep deprived and exhausted from him constantly waking me up, that about 2 weeks ago, it was a Saturday at like 1 o'clock in the morning. He woke me up again, but I had 1 o'clock Saturday morning and I had a full day. I had 3 sessions that day. And I just kind of had it with him. I was so exhausted, mentally exhausted, emotionally exhausted, totally fatigued. And I let him in and I was like, this is it. You're not going back out. You're going to stay in the house until I get up again and let you out because I'm done here. I'm done. You're like a terrorist. This is terrorism, in a domestic way. It's like, and it was overwhelming my nervous system. And what ended up happening was I went back to bed, laid down, and I guess after he was done eating, he came into my bedroom and he laid up on my dresser, across my dresser, and he was looking down at me from my dresser like the Cheshire cat. And I sat up and I started talking to him and I said to him, I'm like, listen, I think we're at a point here where I have to honor that this is not working out between us. And maybe I should have never taken you. Maybe I should have left you right where you were from. I said, but I was trying to give you a better life and make your life easier and do something nice for Bella, bringing a friend with her. But I could clearly see that this is not the right timeline. I have suffered this last year because this is not the right timeline. I made a bad timeline choice in taking you with me, and I release you. I'm ending this soul contract. You are free to go. The contract that we have between us is null and void. I cancel, delete, and restore our soul contract across all time, space, dimensions, and realities. You're free to go. I love you. If you would like to make a new soul agreement and stay, that would be fine. But I'm done with you waking me up. I'm taking my power back. I'm standing my power. Now, I said that to him in a very verbal way because I needed to voice that. I needed to vocalize that. Okay. But if you're canceling a soul contract with another individual that you don't want to say that to or can't find the way to say that to, that's fine. You don't have to say it. You don't have to verbally say it to them. You can think it. You can telepath it to them and cancel the soul contract, even letting them know that it's become null and void. You're canceling the soul contract between them across all time, space, dimensions, and realities, right? And cancel it. And what happened next with Chester was interesting because about 10 minutes later, he jumped off the dresser and he jumped into my bed and he slept next to me. And I could feel him saying goodbye. Like I could feel him saying goodbye. And I was trying not to get emotional to it because I knew whatever was going to transpire had to be. I didn't have a choice because I needed to regain myself again in the process. And so what ended up happening was he woke me up at 4 o'clock in the morning again. I got up, walked him to the front door, let him out. And as I let him out, I said, hey, I'll see you again at 7 a.m. when I come back to let you in, so you can have your breakfast. I said, do not wake me up. This contract is done. We're done. It's done. And with that, I kind of got this very detached feeling from him. And I watched him sit there, and he looked straight up into the sky. He looked to the right. He looked to the left. And I thought to myself, he's going to leave. He's not coming back. And with that, I closed the door, and I was like, this is certainly going to be interesting how this plays out. And I was feeling a little sad. And then I went back to bed, and I got up and went to the door at 7. The other cats came in, and there was no Chester. And I waited for him all day Saturday, finished my sessions, still no Chester. Waited for him Sunday all day, still no Chester. And I said, he left. He left. He got his freedom. He received his freedom from me. It's not that he didn't love me or he wasn't grateful. It's just that it wasn't right for him. It wasn't the right timeline, and it wasn't the right timeline for me. And in hindsight, if I look back, I was in my human, wanting a human situation where he could be a comfort to Bella, who would be moving to this house, away from the friends that she had at the other house. But that wasn't the right thing for him. The right thing for him would have probably been leaving him in that environment, regardless of whether he got rounded up with animal control or not, because I made the decision to make the soul contract between us. And then he, not liking it, pushed me into the highest place within myself to choose myself over him. And it continues to push me higher. Every time we are faced with a choice where it's either them or it's us. And if we're in survival mode, we have to get out of survival mode and choose ourselves. We have to cancel that soul contract and be done with it so that we're choosing ourselves. It was a very hard thing for me to do. And yeah, I cried over it, but I also realized that I gave him his freedom. Wherever I live in a community, so it's a great community. People here like cats. It's not like where I lived before where they didn't like cats. They like cats. And he has a really great community here. So I know that there's many cats in the community that are very well taken care of. It's not like the other place that I had lived before. And if he found another home or family to take him in and love him, he would be very well loved. So I'm happy that he has found his freedom, and he felt okay with leaving and not needing to stay just because he thought it would be the right thing to do for me. And I'm happy because he gave me my freedom, my emancipation, and gave me the opportunity to stand in my power again and be sovereign, so that I did not have to be tormented letting him in and out 10 times a night, which was becoming overwhelming to my nervous system. So this is how soul contracts work, okay? And we have to cancel them. We have to take our power back. We have to stand in our power and say, no more. So if something is happening in your life where it's creating pain for you, it's a human condition to not want to let go. It's a human condition to think that we would be hurting the other person. It's a human condition to think that we have to suffer. It's a human condition to think that there has to be some kind of forgiveness, whether it's for ourselves or for them. But I'm telling you, it's not, because when we're suffering through being in a relationship with someone where it is not on our highest timeline, or in our best interest, and we haven't learned what we need to learn from it. We haven't brought in or taken in the experience that we need to have from that connection with the other person. We're only creating more suffering for ourselves. And by separating ourselves and severing soul contract, we are taking our power back and standing in sovereignty, which is what almost every single soul contract is based on. They all push us back into ourselves. They push us back into self-love. And that's the key here. Okay. So I think I covered everything on soul contracts. If you have any other questions on soul contracts, please feel free to leave them below. And if I get enough of them, I'll do another video. Otherwise, I'll be sure to answer them for you. Okay. It's been a joy connecting with you again. I wish you a wonderful whatever it is that you're doing. I look forward to connecting with you again soon. I love you so very much. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.